First road test for the Patriots is in the books. I'm Mariah Janos, joined by Evan Lazar. This segment brought to you by CarShield, America's #1 auto protection company. I want to start with N'Keal Harry. Last night, we finally got to see a little bit of what he's capable of. His receiving yards in the last 2 weeks have already passed his totals from 2019. This is someone who Cam has expressed interest in. He's supported him, and he's wanted to see him do well. What did you think of his performance last night?
Well, I think there's a ton of pressure on N'Keal Harry right now to live up to that first-round pick billing. The Patriots desperately need a playmaker to emerge out of those pass-catching group for Cam Newton. All eyes and everybody's looking at N'Keal to be that guy. So it's a lot of pressure on one player. But I think what we're seeing with him is that he looks a lot more comfortable in the offense this year than he did as a rookie. And you can see it just the way that he's getting to his spots when he's running his routes, but also his alignments. This last night and Sunday night against Seattle, he finally started to run some routes productively out of the slot, which is something that we saw in college him do extremely well. I thought was going to carry over into the NFL because at 6'3", 225 pounds, he can be a real mismatch against linebackers and safeties in the middle of the field. So they lined him up in the slot 40% of the time last night. He caught 6 of his 8 passes from inside. He had that big 13-yarder that got them down to the 1-yard line from the slot. So a lot of those opportunities that we saw do at Arizona State, especially his last season there from the slot, is that sort of big slot type. A lot of people comparing him out of college to an Anquan Bolden, who was a guy that played inside a lot. So getting him in there, allowing him to move around the formation a little bit more, all of those I think are really good signs that he feels a lot more comfortable in year 2 in the playbook and understands what they're expecting of him. The one thing that we're still waiting for is for him to break some tackles and make a big play with the ball in his hands. We saw him do it at times his rookie season. This year it's been a little bit touch and go there. He's only broken 1 tackle on a lot of scheme touches, screens, passes behind the line of scrimmage, sliding him out the backside of the formation, getting him into space in the flat, trying to get him to be a playmaker. And so far he hasn't been able to break loose and get one of those big gainers. So that's the next step I think for him, because as a receiver, he's really improved a lot with how he's doing down the field.
And how much do you think his level of comfort has to do with the guy under center, Cam versus Tom?
Well, I think that there's a little bit of a different relationship there between those two guys. And N'Keal is the first one to point this out, actually, that with Cam, it feels a little bit more like a big brother, little brother situation, where as with Tom, and I'm talking now, not N'Keal, with Tom, it was more a little bit of dad to son, or something like that, boss to subordinate, or whatever you want to call it. And I think that there's a different level of kind of comfortability with Cam, because Cam is really taking him under his wing. He's kind of putting his arm around him and saying, hey, you can't fumble on the goal line, but it's just one play. So, let it go and learn from it and get better from it and move on. Whereas with Brady, maybe there was a little bit more chastising going on there than just, hey, get over it, move on. It's just one play. So there's definitely a better rapport between those two, and you see it on the field. And I think that you see it in the locker room, and we're not in the locker room, but you hear about it from inside the locker room. And I think the biggest thing for Harry with Cam is that Cam understands that pressure. Cam was a former #1 overall pick himself. In Carolina, Cam pointed out that he had guys like Kelvin Benjamin and Devin Funchess and Christian McCaffrey, who were very high draft picks at skill positions. And he knows that there's a lot of pressure to produce when you're one of those guys that gets drafted in the first round as a wide receiver. And he sort of can understand what N'Keal is going through.
Now, as for the other receivers, Damiere Byrd, no touches in week 1, but he was targeted quite a bit last night. And then, of course, Julian Edelman, what a game. Career high night for him, 179 yards. Cam has been pretty in sync with his receivers thus far. Is that surprising with how early in the season it is?
It is a little bit surprising, but Damiere Byrd did play with him in Carolina. He's a holdover from the Panthers, so they already had a little bit of a chemistry there. And last night you saw, Seattle's a big cover 3 bail team, so they're going to line up on the outside and off coverage. They're going to leave that cushion there, and they're going to protect against the deep ball. So Damiere Byrd just kind of going up the field and stopping on a dime, or breaking inside or breaking outside to cut the route off. Those routes were kind of open a lot of the night, and then finally Seattle started to kind of clue in on some of those, and that's where the interception came. With Julian Edelman, I think the biggest thing is that he is just a zone buster. If you're not going to play man coverage against Julian Edelman, he's going to find the openings against zone, and he took Jamal Adams to school last night, and that was really fun for me to watch, because Jamal Adams is one of those guys that likes to talk a lot of smack, and Julian Edelman just kind of took him behind the woodshed a little bit, especially in zone coverages where Adams was kind of responsible for picking Edelman up coming across the field, and Edelman knew he was there and knew he was waiting for him and had a little bit of tricks up his sleeve to get away from him. So again, don't play it zone coverage against Julian Edelman. I hope no other opposing defensive coordinators are listening to this, but if they are, don't play zone against Edelman because he will eat you alive.
Well, for all of our Patriots coverage, you can find it on our website at clnsmedia.com and subscribe to our YouTube channel over at Patriots Press Pass, which has been presented by CarShield, America's #1 auto protection company. For as low as $99 a month, you can protect yourself from surprises and save thousands for a covered repair. Call 800-CAR-6000 and mention code BEAT or visit carshield.com and use code BEAT to save 10%. That's carshield.com, code BEAT.